true knowledge is through firsthand experience, and that will never change. So that's been my goal, the theme of what I talk about. So with that being said, when I speak to you, you're not going to probably like, in some cases, what I say to you, but it's going to be what I think that you need to hear. So many things in our industry are counterintuitive. The real results that you get is from someone who's got that experience, who understands how your physiology works, because it works at different stages. It responds differently. And at some point, it becomes there's a time that you might ask yourself, it doesn't seem like I should be, for example, cutting calories or increasing calories when I should be cutting calories, because my goal is, at that point, your goal is to drop weight or to drop body fat. So when I'm increasing your caloric intake and telling you that you're going to lose weight while I'm driving your intake up, you're going to find that that's not going to be something that you would think that is what you should be doing. So obviously, as someone who is training you and advising you, if I don't have that kind of experience from firsthand, you can see where we're going with that. It's hard enough for you to believe that, but you'll more likely believe it when you hear it from somebody who's actually done that. I can prove that to you. So I'm always going to talk straight to you, is what I'm trying to say. And if that's not something that you can handle, because a lot of people can't handle the truth, then maybe this is not the place for you to be, but I hope it is. So let's move on. In order to accomplish something in making changes that you want, always remember this. It's about 4 components. There are 4 components that you need to manipulate, implement, in conjunction with one another. Starts with mindset. And you expand personal growth in your mind, and you do that by making your mind uncomfortable. When you do that on a regular basis, now you're expanding the opportunity and the potential of what your body will do, because your body is going to follow. So mindset is definitely one of the components. And I would say, as much as these components to some degree have equal value, I think that the mindset trumps the 3 because of what I'm telling you. The body follows what the mind, what you're telling it to do. So it's very important that we work on mental techniques training. And it's a process. The thing that so many people fail to realize, really realize, is that there is a process to doing this. It's a long process, actually. You know, there's the long game. There's the stated goal, which is the long game. But in that long game, there's so many short games and so many short-term processes that you have to go through to really dial this thing in for yourself. Because, you know, as individuals, we're all humans, but it really comes down to the only way to determine what really works for you specifically is for you to learn that through these different processes. What I mean is that taking those, the other 3 components are, you have mindset, you have the resistance training, you have cardiovascular conditioning, and then, of course, you have nutrition. So it's about taking those 4 components and getting them all moving in the same direction that's coherent with what your stated goal is. That's not easy. But if you're not going to do that, I can promise you'll be disappointed in your results, because there'll never be long-term results for you. You'll end up getting on this roller coaster ride that's mostly frustrating. And So I just want to make sure that I'm clear about that. And yet, if you do take the time to fully commit to the 4 components, you'll be amazed at what you're able to accomplish. You'll be amazed at the kind of warrior mindset that you can develop, and your body will produce results for you that you can't even imagine. The subject that I want to talk about today, of those 4 components, even though I think mindset is the most important one by a hair, is I want to talk about the nutrition component. I think of the 4 components, I think in so many ways, that component is the one that people struggle with more, as opposed to doing cardio, doing resistance training. I think that the nutrition component is the one that's most misunderstood. And I see that all the time when I'm listening to these weight loss programs that talk about weight loss. And then I see where these weight loss programs talk about you don't have to count calories to get results. I think those are mostly lies that the public are being told. It's not about weight loss as much as it's about fat loss. And that's what's not being talked about. And if for those of you who think that you don't have to count calories, I can tell you as a high-level competitor and bodybuilders just in general, we are all about counting calories. If you don't count calories, here's what you can expect. You're going to get some very average results at the end of the day. Because think about this for a moment. If you want to get exact results in anything that you do you really think that you can take a general approach to gaining that result? You can't. You'll get some results. But what happens when you get just some results? Are you happy with that? I mean, you might be. But if you want to get some exact results, because as you're going along with your weight loss program or your fat loss program, which should be said more appropriately, then you know that your body's always going to be changing. Your body is going to hit plateaus. So how in the world can you not count calories in this case and think that you're going to be able to get past a plateau? I mean, maybe if you're a bodybuilder that's been doing this for as long as I have, by that time you've developed a certain awareness and an instinct. You are comfortable with listening to that little voice in your head, which is your intuitive and instinctive side. Okay, sometimes you can override that caloric intake because your body is telling you something else. But if you're that person that doesn't have 10 to 12, 15 years or more of doing this to yourself, so you really understand how to communicate with that side of you, I promise you're going to be disappointed. And again, I'm going back to the top of the show. I'm telling you this because I want you to produce remarkable results at will at the end of the day. Weight loss programs should be focusing on fat loss, targeting fat loss, and yet they're not doing that. And, I think it's a selling point when these weight loss commercials say, I've lost 69 pounds and whatever weight. But what they're not telling you is that what kind of weight are you losing? Because I can tell you in a standard weight loss program that's out there, they're not paying attention to muscle wasting. So when you're losing weight instead of fat, that's a very specific difference. When you're losing weight instead of fat, you are actually making yourself less efficient. And this is the reason why so many people, maybe that you've noticed when they go on a diet, they get what I call skinny fat. They don't really look like they're toned or like they've even though they've dropped this weight, they don't look like they're really in better shape for the most part. They're skinny fat, they're pale. A lot of times they don't feel well. But what's really happening there when you're not focusing on targeting fat, which are things that you need to do, and I'll explain, is when you lose muscle off your body, think about like a thermostat. Keep in mind that muscle is the most metabolically active on your body as opposed to fat that you're carrying. So if it's the most metabolically active, meaning it's what burns the most calories, it's what raises the temperature of your body because your body produces heat so you can lose body fat. That's that mechanism. So if you're not dieting properly for targeting fat, do you see that as you're just focusing on just weight alone, yeah, you're losing some body fat, but you're losing that heat. You're turning down the thermostat, so your body is actually not becoming more efficient, it's becoming less efficient. And you'll get to some point where you will not be able to, your body will not move and respond. It can't. You've destroyed your muscle. The good news is the muscle can be added back onto your body. That's the good news. So that's temporary. In this case, it's a good thing. So pay attention when you're on a program like that. You need to quantify what amount of weight that you're losing is actually coming from fat and from muscle. And the way that you can do that in a program is you can do that by, if you're on an 8-week program, for example, what you have to do temporarily in that 8 weeks is you need to push the body for a short period of time. You need to increase your protein intake because that'll help with muscle wasting. You're not going to be able to only lose body fat at the end of the day, but you can put yourself in a position where you're primarily losing body fat. And what happens is if you're on a 8-week program, for example, in this example, then you're stressing your body too harshly, and you're putting your body into a state where it's severely overtrained. So your body can't respond because you've torn it down too much. So if you temporarily, for example, drop your caloric intake in a certain way, making sure that your protein level is at a certain point, then you're going to minimize muscle wasting and definitely increase and target fat loss. And then at some point, like I mentioned at the top of the show, your program your caloric intake should increase, even dramatically. And what you'll find in that next little segment, that little phase, 2-week phases, we'll just say for now, because there's different lengths of phases that you can put your body through. When you start going into that phase where now you're starting to increase your caloric intake, that's where some people struggle. But I can promise you this, by doing that, you're influencing, if your caloric intake is raised just enough and not too much, then the message that you're sending to your physiology, your body, is that I have now eaten a little more food, to put this in layman terms, and your body's response to that is to raise its temperature, to address that extra caloric intake that you now have that's entered your body by eating more calories. So when that happens, when you raise the temperature like that, all of a sudden you're going to find your metabolism is going to increase, and it will increase dramatically. You'll find that you'll go on a run where you can actually increase your caloric intake for as many as 3 weeks, and you're still dropping weight. That's how you, getting back to what we've been talking about, that's how you target body fat to be lost, and that's how you spare and eliminate, to a point, muscle wasting. Who's talking about that? No one is. I haven't heard anybody address that. So keep in mind, again, whether you're an athlete or whether you're a person who has a lot of excess fat to lose, the same approach must be taken, even for an athlete. I have this program that it's called Lockdown. And the reason I call it Lockdown, it's a fat loss system. But like I mentioned, not only does it apply to the person who has excess body fat, but it also applies to the athlete who has minimal body fat. Because you get to a point, even if you're not an athlete, you'll get to a point where you've got these last few pounds of body fat that you just can't get rid of. So what do? This is when it starts getting really tough. Those last 5 pounds. Well, this is where you have to lock down your body. That's the reason why I'm calling it lockdown. You lock down your body, and you do that by aggressive tactics that are safe for a period of time, and you drive your body into what's called fight or flight. These are the tricks that bodybuilders use to keep making themselves get leaner while not wasting muscle. You drive yourself into fight or flight for a length of time. You aggressively reduce caloric intake. You manipulate water in a way that forces your body to go into fight or flight. And what happens when you're in fight or flight, your body now perceives that it's under attack. And that for your physiology is a negative thing, but what it wants to do, it wants to protect you. So what happens is all of your inner mechanisms that work for you, your metabolism, for example, your physiology. Look, all of us have a sluggish metabolism. All of us have a sluggish physiology to a degree, and especially as we get older. So what you're doing in a safe manner is aggressively waking up your body again, waking up your physiology and your metabolism to when it was much younger. Much younger. I know that because I've done it to myself. I'm at age of 67 years of age, and I have a metabolism of somebody who's in their 20s, and that's legit. So that is how you create a program that is very efficient. You're getting your body awakened. All your physiology is working like it did when it was younger. You'll be surprised at what you can do if you know how to do it. It's not something I'm telling you that is a surprise. But you have to get your information from those who have done it themselves and those who have done it more than one time. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. See you next week.